They say it takes a village to raise a child, because children need a lot of different people to look out for them. Families can use all the help they can get. After all, no parent is perfect. That's why McCoy leads the Early Intervention and Prevention Initiative. We want to showcase all of the excellent programs in our city that help families learn and grow together. Because when we learn and grow together, we make our village a better place to live. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy this episode of Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate Rollicke and I'm the Early Intervention and Prevention Director for McCoy, the Marion County Commission on Youth. November is National Adoption Month, and today I have Anna and Dylan here who are going to talk to us a little bit more about adoption. So Anna and Dylan, why don't you introduce yourselves and let us know what program you're with?
Thanks for having us, Kate. I'm Anna Wallach. I'm the Director of Adoption Recruitment at Children's Bureau, and we direct the Indiana Adoption Program.
I am Dylan Williams, and I am an Indiana Adoption Program champion.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to be here with us. So it's my understanding that the Indiana Adoption Program works with older children, so children who maybe have been in the foster care system for a pretty long time. So Anna, can you tell us a little bit more about how the program works with those children and the experiences that they may have had?
Sure. So the children in our program, we have about 175 children who are hoping to meet their adoptive families. Most of them have been in foster care a little longer than most children in foster care, but all of them are hoping to find their families. So we meet with them and we help them create a profile to show to families, and that includes a photo, sometimes a video, and always a bio. We ask them what they want in a family, and then our adoption champions like Dylan go out into the community and try to find those families.
So you're really working with the children to find out what they're looking for, as well as with the families to find out what they are looking for as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We are a matching program. So we do also host events called adoption meet and greet events, where the families who have been through our program and the children who want to be adopted can meet each other.
Okay. What are some of the misconceptions that you sometimes hear about adoption, and what does your program do to kind of counteract those misconceptions?
I would say that a lot of people, when they think about adoption, they think about infant adoption. So one of the first misconceptions is that there aren't older youth who want to be adopted, and there absolutely are. All the children in our program have told us that they want to be adopted, and they've told us what they want in a home. So yeah, I would say that's a major misconception.
And there are obviously so many benefits to adoption and providing a permanent home to a child. What are some of those benefits?
I think Dylan could speak to that as an adoptive mother.
Yeah.
Well, I truly believe that every family, every child needs to have a forever home. And so to that end, I have adopted 5 children, formerly adopted 5 children, as well as raised many more. But I think they're just looking for someone to belong somewhere. A lot of these children in foster care, they age out and then they just go out into a world where they have no one. You know, they've lost their birth parents or their birth families, or you know, disconnected from them by being in many foster homes. So they deserve to have a forever home, somewhere where once they are grown and they go off, they come back. And you know, my children have gone to college and they've had families, they've gotten married and have children, and that gives me a lot of love, grandchildren, and as well as just the joy of having someone, they know that this is my home. I can always come here.
What would you say to a family that maybe is interested in adoption, but they're kind of set on adopting an infant? But obviously we know that there are sometimes up to 175 children in Indiana who are waiting to be adopted. What would you say to a family to maybe have them consider adopting an older child?
Well, one thing I would tell them is that I think a lot of misconception is if I have a baby from birth, you know, I can raise them the way that I want them to be raised, and they'll just love me. But all children, they come with some trauma, even an infant. But as an older child, they want to be loved so much. and not to take the things that may happen. Don't take that personally, but just give them love. If you just show them unconditional love, you'll be amazed at what you'll get back in return.
For our children, I would say that permanency it's life-changing. You know, they come to us and they have experienced trauma, but just imagine going through that alone versus going through that with a safe and stable family. I think it's really life-changing.
So you both mention the trauma, and we know that that's something that often is a part of a foster child's life. How do you work with families to prepare them for being trauma-informed, as we might call it?
Yeah, we actually encourage families to attend trauma-informed care trainings. We encourage them to foster before they adopt so that they can get to experience that kind of parenting a child who has experienced usually abuse or neglect. And we encourage them to become educated in any way that they can so that it can prepare them for that.
And are there
placement.
different kinds of support systems that you put in place to help families with that process?
There are post-adoptive services for families who have adopted in Indiana, and that could be families who have adopted through foster care or internationally. Any way you've adopted, there are post-adoption services. But I think the education piece is really imperative.
Mm-hmm. So Dallin, with your experience adopting children and offering them a permanent home, what has been probably the greatest thing that has brought you joy out of that?
One, just that love and just seeing them come from where they started, especially with the older ones that I adopted. And then even having them come back and say, they call me Mama Dallin, we are so sorry for all the blues we gave you. And so it just warms my heart, and it's a joy to me because I just love them so. I couldn't love them anymore if I'd had them myself. And they were foster children, most of them, before I adopted them. And as Anna said, that training, because you have to keep your license, you have to go through a lot of training and they've added trauma. That's almost, I think that it's mandatory that you take that trauma piece of it, because you're gonna get it. But that just love, just that unconditional love that you give, and just the love you see that you get back, it's a joy to my heart.
What should a family do if they are interested in starting the process of adoption?
The first steps would be background checks and training and a home study, which is somebody kind of doing an interview with your family and inspecting your home. But the very first step is to inquire, just to ask about adoption in your local region. We serve the entire state. We partner with all agencies, all DCS offices, and we ask people to go to our Facebook, which is Indiana Adoption Program, and just send us a message and ask us a question.
Different resources that are out there for folks to learn more about adoption and about your program specifically.
Well, the state's website is adoptachild.in.gov. They have a wealth of information there. We also have our own site, which is indianaadoptionprogram.org. And that's where families can take the first step. They can inquire, they can send us their information, and we can direct them to somebody who can help them start the process. I think those are our major tools. Can you think of anything else? That's good.
And is there any other additional information that you would want to share with families in the Indianapolis area about your program?
I'd say just do your research. Take a look at the photo listing of the children that we've created profiles for and see if any of them would be a really good fit in your family, and ask us about that child, because that child's asking about you.
And Dallin, anything that you would want to share with families?
Oh, yes. Once they look in that book, I look through and I'm like, oh, can I take them all? Because they want to be, they're just, almost just begging for love. I want to be with a family. I want to be with a home. I want a dog.
Yeah.
I want a treehouse. But it's just, they want their desire so strong. So interested people, that's what, as Adoption Champions, we just stand there and ask people to please just give us information so you can inquire. We'll send you something and tell you where to go to inquire. And it's just so needed, and they want to be loved. So I would tell families, do it. You won't be sad. I mean, everything doesn't work out perfect, but even if you're birth children, everything doesn't work out perfect. You can't decide, I want this, that, because you never know what love you can get from a child you thought, But I mean, I've had some like, oh Lord, why did I do this? But they've all just, not all perfect, but just, it's a wonderful thing.
Well, it sounds like being placed in a home and having a permanent home and a family really helps them flourish, and probably is what's needed most to help them overcome that trauma that they may have experienced in life. So, Dellen, what you do is amazing, and you sound like you have really, you've really grown and learned and received a lot from the adoption process. And Anna, we're just so grateful that you and Dellen are both here to share more about that.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So much.
So that concludes our episode of Our Kids, Our Families, Our Communities. And we look forward to hopefully working with you again in the future.
Yeah, likewise.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.